Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that could be pretty revolutionary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, WebAssembly and all the potential it has to just change how we think about cloud computing.
Excited.
Yeah, we've got some pretty fascinating source material to unpack,
Okay.
starting with Rodrigo Bruno's presentation
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
on the WebAssembly execution environment.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a really interesting Q&A that followed.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, a lot of good questions in there.
Mm-hmm.
Faster serverless functions,
Okay.
easier access to GPUs.
Uh-huh.
We're even talking about replacing containers.
Whoa.
Yeah, so,
Big claims.
yeah, big claims. So buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride.
You're not kidding.
So Bruno really hit on something, I think, when he was talking about how software development has changed.
Yeah.
Like we've gone from these massive applications
Right.
running on a single CPU
Right, just one CPU.
to this world of microservices and serverless functions.
Yeah, spread across all kinds of hardware.
Spread across everything, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even just the architecture, it's how we think about performance now.
Yeah.
Like, that example used
Oh, yeah.
the cat unicorn image?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
That it really stuck with me going through, like, feature extraction and stuff.
Yeah, it really highlights how we need to start optimizing for specific hardware,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't always easy in today's cloud environments.
Yeah, it's not easy at all.
Not at all.
And he called it the misplaced abstractions problem,
Yeah,
which is a good way to put it.
it is a good way to put it.
Cloud platforms are great at abstracting away complexity,
Yeah.
but that can actually hurt performance
Uh-huh.
when you're dealing with specialized hardware like GPUs.
Definitely that, yeah.
Like, remember his point about TensorFlow?
Yeah,
Needing specific builds for different hardware?
yeah. And that might sound familiar to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thinking about all that.
It makes you wonder, like, how much performance we're just leaving on the table.
Yeah,
You know, sticking with these generic solutions.
yeah, for sure.
Think about all the time you've used gRPC
Uh-huh.
to communicate between modules,
Yeah,
even when they're on the same machine.
yeah, exactly. Like, what's the point?
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Bruno's team actually saw a 33% performance improvement
Wow.
in the Dead Star benchmark just by optimizing those pathways.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. And it really shows how much we stand to gain if we rethink our approach.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the solution he proposed.
Yeah.
The WebAssembly execution environment.
Yeah.
I have to admit,
What?
this is a little mind-bending.
What is?
The idea of delaying, the linking decisions until runtime?
Oh, yeah.
Can you break that down for me?
Absolutely. So you know how Maven downloads all your Java dependencies at
Yeah.
build time?
Uh-huh.
Well, imagine if it fetched them dynamically
Okay.
during runtime as needed.
Okay.
That's essentially what WebAssembly is proposing.
Wow. So instead of packaging my entire project
Yeah.
with its dependencies, I could just upload to core code
Yeah,
and the platform just figures out the rest.
exactly.
That seems like it could have some serious implications for a serverless function.
It really does.
Yeah.
Like, imagine being able to spin up a serverless function
Okay.
that just links to an optimized PyTorch
Uh-huh.
based on whatever hardware is available.
Wow.
No more package duplication, no more struggling to use GPUs.
So the possibilities are endless.
They really are. It's exciting.
That would be a game changer.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that create a logistical nightmare?
What do you mean?
I mean, think about all the different versions
Okay.
of each libraries you'd need for every single hardware platform.
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't the module registry become insanely bloated?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But Bruno addressed it in the Q&A.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he said that duplicates would be avoided
Okay.
and popular modules would be cached locally. So it's about creating a smart distributed library system.
Right.
That gives you the optimal version that you need.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, this talk about WebAssembly
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of a question
Yeah.
one of our listeners had
Okay.
about Java bytecode.
Okay.
They were wondering how the two compare
Okay.
in terms of performance and portability.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So both of them offer a level of abstraction,
Uh-huh.
but WebAssembly is designed for performance
Okay.
and portability in a way that Java bytecode just isn't.
Okay.
Java relies on the JVM,
Right.
which adds a lot of overhead,
Uh-huh.
and WebAssembly has this really minimalist system interface
Okay.
that makes it really efficient.
Interesting. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
Let's talk about containers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Docker and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Could this WebAssembly execution environment
Yeah.
actually replace containers entirely?
That sparked a lot of debate.
Did it?
Oh, yeah, in the Q&A.
Really?
Yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah.
WebAssembly offers a really lightweight
Mm-hmm.
and verifiable way to package and deploy code.
Okay.
It has a lot of the same benefits
Yeah.
as containers,
Okay.
but with a much smaller footprint.
Interesting.
Some people think it could even replace VMs in some cases.
Hold on. We're talking about like a paradigm shift.
I know, right?
This could be huge.
It could be huge.
But before we get too carried away,
Okay.
maybe we should take a step back
Okay.
and consider some of the challenges.
Okay.
I mean, it can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
Of course not.
Right.
There will be challenges for starters. There's a learning curve for developers.
Yeah.
This is a whole different way of thinking about development.
Right.
It'll take some time for people to adapt.
It's not just about swapping out one technology for another.
Exactly.
It's about rethinking the entire process.
Yeah, and there's more to it than that.
What else?
Standardization is a big hurdle.
Okay.
WebAssembly is still evolving.
Right.
And making sure that everything's interoperable across different platforms is going to be crucial.
Right. Otherwise, it's just a mess.
Exactly. A fragmented mess.
And what about managing complexity?
Yeah.
As we move towards this like modular dynamic environment, won't things get even more difficult to manage,
That's a good point.
especially for like large-scale applications?
It is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, we're trading one set of challenges for a different set of challenges.
Yeah.
But the rewards could be huge.
Yeah.
Imagine a world
Yeah.
where your code can run on anything,
Right?
from tiny sensors to massive supercomputers.
That's amazing.
All thanks to assembly.
Okay, so that's a future I can definitely get behind.
I know, right?
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and dive into some of the more nuanced questions
Okay.
from Bruno's Q&A.
All right.
There were some really interesting insights there,
Yeah.
especially about the potential of WebAssembly
Yeah.
to not only like improve cloud computing,
Mm-hmm.
but to like completely reshape
Yeah.
how we think about software development and deployment. And
Absolutely.
how we do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Q&A session had some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it did.
Like someone brought up supporting existing container workflows.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
A lot of developers are worried
Yeah.
about having to like rewrite all their apps
Yeah,
just to use WebAssembly.
which would be a huge barrier to entry.
Oh, absolutely.
So what did Bruno have to say about that?
Well, he emphasized automation,
Okay.
which I think is key.
Yeah.
Like the transition to this new WebAssembly environment.
Right.
It doesn't have to be disruptive.
Right.
We can leverage existing tools and knowledge
Yeah,
to make things as seamless as possible.
that's reassuring.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds like WebAssembly could just complement existing technologies
Exactly.
rather than replacing them.
Yeah, and that actually leads into another interesting point.
Okay.
The idea of using WebAssembly as like a lighter,
Okay.
more verifiable alternative
Containers.
to containers themselves.
Whoa, hold on. Are we talking about phasing out Docker completely?
Well, it's not necessarily about getting rid of containers completely.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing that WebAssembly has some advantages,
Okay. Like what?
especially when it comes to security and efficiency.
Okay.
Like, remember, it was designed for secure execution in browsers.
Right.
So that same principle applies here.
So even though we're talking about dynamic linking
Yeah.
and modules being fetched at runtime,
Yeah.
there are still safeguards in place.
Absolutely. Like
Right.
WebAssembly runs in a sandboxed environment.
Okay.
And it's designed for like rigorous code verification
Okay.
for execution.
So it's like a security checkpoint
Yeah, like a security checkpoint for each module.
for each module.
Making sure that everything is playing by the rules.
I like that. Okay, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move beyond the technical details for a second.
Okay.
What about real-world applications?
Okay.
Where do you see this tech having the biggest impact?
Okay, well, I think scientific computing is a prime candidate.
Okay.
Imagine running complex simulations
Okay.
that require specialized hardware.
Okay.
WebAssembly could make it easy
Yeah.
to leverage resources like GPUs,
Mm-hmm.
even for researchers who aren't expert
Right.
in cloud infrastructure.
That's fascinating. It could really democratize access to
Mm.
advanced computing power.
Exactly.
And it's not just about making things faster.
Right.
It's about opening up new possibilities
Yeah, for scientific discovery.
for like scientific discovery.
Exactly. And let's not forget about edge computing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
WebAssembly's small size
Yeah.
makes it perfect for deploying apps.
Yeah.
At the edge where resources are limited.
This is really starting to paint a picture
Yeah.
of a future where code can just adapt to any environment.
It really is.
It's almost like the hardware becomes irrelevant,
Yeah, which is mind-blowing.
which is mind-blowing.
We're talking about a fundamental shift
Yeah.
in how we think about software development and deployment.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember this is still early days.
Right?
There are going to be challenges and limitations
That we haven't even thought about yet.
that we haven't even considered yet.
That's a good point. We need to be realistic
Yeah.
about the potential downsides.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some hurdles we might encounter?
Well, one we haven't talked about yet is programming languages.
Okay, right.
There was a lot of discussion about this in the Q&A.
Yeah.
WebAssembly supports a growing ecosystem of languages,
Uh-huh.
from C++ and Rust to Python and JavaScript.
Right.
So figuring out how these will coexist and
Yeah.
interact in this new environment
Yeah.
is going to be crucial.
So it's not a matter of picking one language and calling it a day.
Not at all.
Okay.
The diversity of languages
Yeah.
is one of WebAssembly's strengths.
Okay.
It gives developers the flexibility to choose the right tool for the job,
Right.
which is essential for innovation
Right.
and addressing all these different computing challenges.
This is a lot to take in,
I know.
but I'm really starting to see the potential here.
It is huge.
WebAssembly isn't just about improvements.
Mm.
It's about completely reimagining
Yeah,
how we build and deploy software.
exactly.
But before we go too far,
Okay.
let's talk about something that came up a lot.
Okay.
Opaque cross-module invocation.
Yeah,
This seems like an important concept,
it is.
but it honestly went over my head a little bit.
You're not alone.
Okay, good.
It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
But it's pretty straightforward once you break it down.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Essentially, it's about abstracting away the communication between modules.
Okay.
So the platform can choose the most efficient method
Okay.
at runtime.
So instead of hard coding how they talk,
Exactly.
we let the platform figure it out
Exactly.
based on the hardware and the context.
Yeah, it's about giving the platform more control to optimize performance.
Okay.
And remember what Bruno said about the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Communication being as fast as a function, call in C or C++.
That's impressive.
It is.
But doesn't that level of abstraction create security risks?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's something the WebAssembly community is actively working on.
Okay, good.
Security is paramount.
Yeah.
So anything using opaque cross-module invocation
Yeah.
needs to have safeguards to prevent unauthorized access
Of course.
and malicious activity.
So it sounds like there's still a lot of work to be done,
Yeah.
but the potential benefits are huge.
Oh, yeah.
This could be a game changer for the cloud and beyond.
I think so.
Okay. I think we've covered a lot in this section.
Yeah, we have.
What do you think we take a quick break
Okay.
and come back to talk about the future of software development?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're back, and I am still trying to wrap my head around
Yeah, right.
everything we've talked about: WebAssembly,
Yeah.
dynamic linking, opaque cross-module invocation.
It's a lot,
It's a lot.
but it's exciting stuff.
It is exciting stuff.
I think the main takeaway is that we're seeing a huge shift
Yeah.
in how we think about software development and deployment.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just small improvements.
Right.
It's about completely changing how we see the possibilities.
Yeah. And a big part of that has to do with the cloud. Right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's where WebAssembly seems to have the most potential.
Yeah, the most disruptive potential
Yeah. But what did Bruno say about the long-term implications?
for the cloud.
Yeah, for the cloud.
Well, he mentioned something I think is really important.
Okay.
The cloud becoming invisible.
Okay.
Like, right now, we're still very aware of it
Yeah.
as this separate thing.
Right. This thing we have to manage.
Just infrastructure we have to manage and interact with.
Yeah.
But with WebAssembly, that could all change.
Wait, are you saying the cloud could just fade into the background?
That's the idea.
Like we wouldn't even have to think about it?
Exactly. Imagine you just deploy in code and it runs.
Yeah.
It adapts to whatever hardware is available.
Wow.
No more containers, VMs, infrastructure.
That sounds like a developer's dream.
It doesn't it?
But let's be realistic.
Okay.
There are going to
please.
be some challenges.
Of course.
What could hold back this vision?
Of the invisible cloud.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be security.
Okay.
When code's dynamically thinking
Right.
and interacting in this really fluid way,
Mhm.
security gets a lot more complex.
It does. How do you even prevent malicious code
Right.
from exploiting these dynamic environments?
Exactly. And how do you guarantee the integrity
Right.
of the modules being fetched at runtime?
Right. It's a big question.
Those are the questions that everyone's thinking about.
Yeah.
And it's not just about attacks either. It's about data privacy
Mm-hmm.
and compliance with regulations.
Right. There are a lot of moving parts.
There are a lot of moving parts, but the good news is
Okay.
security is a top priority for everybody.
Good. Okay. So security's a big one.
Yeah.
What else?
What other roadblocks?
Yeah.
I think standardization is another one.
Okay.
The WebAssembly ecosystem is still changing really quickly.
It is.
So we want to make sure everyone's on the same page,
Yeah.
that there are standards and protocols
Right.
to make sure everything works together.
Right. Because otherwise it's just a fragmented mess.
Exactly. And that's the opposite of what we want. We want to make a universal platform,
Yeah.
a cloud that's accessible to everyone,
Right.
no matter what their technical expertise is.
Or what hardware they're using.
Exactly.
It's a bold vision.
It is.
But it's really exciting.
It is exciting.
And it all comes back to WebAssembly mean
Yeah.
more than just a technology.
Yeah, it's a catalyst for a change in how you think about software.
Absolutely.
Like it's making us rethink our assumptions,
Hmm.
challenge what we think we know,
Yeah.
and imagine new possibilities.
And who knows, this invisible cloud
Yeah,
might just be the beginning.
it might be.
I think that's the end of our deep dive.
Wow, that went by fast.
I know, right? We covered a lot today.
We did.
From the technical details of WebAssembly
Mhm.
to what it means for the future of software.
It's fascinating.
It's been a fascinating journey,
It has.
and I hope everyone listening enjoy it.
I hope so too.
I have a feeling this is just the beginning
Yeah,
of a much larger conversation.
I think so.
WebAssembly is definitely a technology to watch,
Keep an eye on it.
and we'll revisit this topic
Yeah.
as it keeps evolving.
Definitely.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundary.
Of what's possible.
Exactly. Thanks for listening, everybody.
See you next time.